I'm John Batchelor with Mary Kissel, the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, the host of Opinion Journal. Mary's going to begin with a crime report tonight because we've got good news, but we want to make it very clear that our anxiety about crime in New York City the last year, 2 years, especially since Mayor de Blasio and Bill Bratton have decided to go another route in policing, that our anxiety has come to stark facts. Mary?
Very, very stark facts, John. So earlier this week, on a Tuesday morning, 11:30 in the morning, a South Korean tourist was sitting in scenic Bryant Park, which for New Yorkers know, it is at the heart of Midtown, about 42nd Street, just south.
Right behind the library.
Yeah, right behind the library, close to Grand Central Station. She had just done a yoga class. She was sitting on a bench when all of a sudden, a madman came up and started to hack at her arm with a machete. Now, thankfully, I know you're shaking your head. It's frightening. 11:30 in the morning on a weekday. Thankfully, she suffered injuries, but she wasn't killed. The arm is intact. They wrestled the man away from her. They arrested him. But John, you have to ask, what is going on?
Where were the metal detectors? How did he get here?
But in the middle of New York City, you are macheted.
What?
That's something that happens in Hong Kong with the Triad gangs, not in the middle of New York.
Hayes, you've got some explaining to do before we get to the good news. Is this the madness of summer, Eddie? I don't remember this during Bloomberg and Kelly's era. Eddie Hayes, our attorney at law, joins us. Eddie?
This is the breakdown of the social order. I'm not exaggerating. As you have less police that are really doing their maintaining order because they don't want to take a risk, you're going to have more people that do things like this. Ordinarily, let's say you had a more aggressive police department. There would be 3 or 4 cops patrolling that park looking for trouble. Right? Now they don't like to do that because if they're looking for trouble, they're the ones that get in trouble. So
Eddie, it wasn't even a provoked attack.
No, he's a nut.
He was a crazy person.
Yeah. But if you see a crazy person walking around the park with a machete, you'd kind of wander over to him and say,
She did. She started to walk away from him. She saw something was wrong. Oh, yeah.
You'd have a cop walk over and say, look, not for nothing, but why are you walking around Bryant Park with a machete?
Now we come to the good news, because there's more to say about this. People sleeping in front of Pennsylvania Station at midnight on the pavement, that did not happen under Kelly and Bratton, and it all speaks to the fact that the NYPD needs resources. So the announcement by the mayor, what is characterized by the New York Daily News as the surprise evening announcement, adding 1,300 police to the NYPD, which is 2 weeks after Police Plaza sit-down between Bill Bratton and the mayor. Bill Bratton is your friend and colleague, your client for these many years. He's the police commissioner. What did Bratton say to the mayor? It's out of control. You must give me these, because the mayor didn't want to do it, Eddie.
Well, I would say what I'd say is, look, you're gonna not be in office for 10 minutes after the next election if you have any question that crime is coming back. And in order to make sure the crime doesn't come back, you're going to have to give me more cops. And that worked.
Yes, but Eddie, we've had this addition of cops over the summer. I can't remember the name of the program.
It's all out, summer out, something
like
catchy.
that.
But Eddie said they were administrative cops.
Administrative cops. But so, Eddie, these new officers, how long is it going to take them to train them up and to get them to the level where they actually help?
6 months to a year.
So we got to put up with the machete guys for a year?
No, you just have to say to people in the parks, look, if you see some guy walking around with a machete, ask him what he's doing. I'm joking, but I'm serious, too. They have to be more aggressive. They can't stay in the corners of the park. They have to be in a situation where they're walking through the park, looking for guys that might be problems. And that means if there's a homeless guy there, or some guy that's very, very shiftless looking, you have to go up and, ordinarily you'd go up and stop and frisk him. But they don't do that anymore.
What was happening under Commissioner Kelly and Mayor Bloomberg that is not happening now, so that people believe it's okay to sleep on the pavement, broad pavement? People who have been to New York, this is 7th Avenue, in front of Pennsylvania Station entrance. It's a wide avenue, but it's a big block. There are taxi lines. There are people in all directions. Huge billboards, building-sized billboards. It's bright lights, big city. But they're asleep on the ground, Eddie, and I don't see any officers near midnight. Why?
Well, it's because the problem now is that the instructions to the police department is don't take any chances, don't be aggressive, and that's what so they're not doing it.
Don't be aggressive, and to ask
Eddie,
somebody to move on is not what I would call aggressive.
Well,
that's not stop and frisk. That's just sort of like get up and leave.
The problem is if you say to somebody, move on, and they say no or go to hell, then what do you say to them?
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, that's the problem.
But I've seen
Then what you ordinarily say to them is get up against the wall, you frisk them, and if they fight you, you lock them up. Well, now you got an issue. Now somebody's taking your picture on their smartphone, and they're saying, look, this guy started fighting you. Why did you hit him in the head?
Eddie, here's my question. We had this big deinstitutionalization of mentally ill patients in, the 60s and the 70s in New York? So all these guys were thrown out on the streets. They're sick. They need help. They went somewhere under Giuliani and Bloomberg.
They were in shelters.
Were they in shelters? So do those shelters not exist anymore? Or why aren't we sending them to shelters?
They don't make them get up and go to the shelter. With Giuliani, what they would do is they'd say to him, listen, get up. I don't care where you go, but you can't go here. And then there were people whose job was to go around and say, look, you got to go to a shelter. They're not going to let you sleep on the street. That was a better system. As I said before, we have a series on Madison Avenue in the 50s. You have people sleeping in the street, and overt junkies on the corner of 57th and Madison. It's disgraceful.
We got 1,300 more cops on the way. We just have to hold out until they arrive. Eddie Hayes, Mary Kissel, I'm John Batchelor.